This is my on-the-go multi-species tackle box. And in this video, I'm gonna be showing you everything I use to catch multiple species in this compact tackle bag. But before we get into this bag, I started fishing a couple of years ago, and the fish that actually got me hooked on fishing was not actually a bass. I started fishing for bluegill and green sunfish before I ever even caught a bass. But eventually I did start fishing for bass, and since then I've been able to catch a 5 and almost 6 pound bass. But to this day, I love catching other species like bluegill and green sunfish. So let's get into the bag itself. This bag was just a bag that someone gave me. It's actually for soccer cleats. It's like a cleat bag, but I didn't really use it for that, so I figured I could use it as a second little mini tackle box. For what I have in here, you could actually have a smaller bag because I don't have it stuffed, but it's really nice to just have a slightly smaller bag. Say if you're driving to work every day, you can just have this in your car at all times with a small little rod, which I'm going to talk about at the end of this video as well, and just have it in there. If you see a little stream or a little pond, you can just hop out and fish it. And it's not like taking up a bunch of room. I've got a couple things. I've got the tackle box, which I will go over in just a sec. And then I've got two other things. First of all, the tools which you need for fishing. I've shown this in my other videos. I use this multi-tool. For the types of fishing that we're doing here, there's a lot of bluegill and things with little hooks that can go down their throat. So it's really nice. This is kind of a rusty pair, but it's really nice to have a nice pair of needle nose pliers to help get as much as you can those hooks out of those fish without losing your whole hook. So it's really nice to have a pair of pliers as well to get treble hooks out of fish mouths. And then also I use the scissors on here all the time for cutting my line. Very helpful, they work really well. But just any pair of scissors, any pair of needle nose pliers, those would be really handy to have in your little tackle bag here. And then the only other thing that did not fit in the actual tackle box itself is this. And this is going to be bait, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. So let's get into the actual tackle box itself. So this little tackle box is a Plano. It's a 520 size tackle box. I've never actually used this size before, but it fits perfectly in that bag. It could even be fit into a smaller bag. It's just a nice little size for carrying like a minimal amount of stuff, but still enough room to carry a decent number of lures, which I'll show you in just a sec. So I have a different one that's a bigger size of this, so I figured I'd just try out the smaller size, and it seems like a pretty decent size. And this is not a waterproof tackle box, it's just a regular, but I don't really see a need when you're starting out to get a waterproof one. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to start here with my more bass style lures, move around, then get into some of our other lures for other species of fish, and then our terminal tackle. So starting off, top of the tackle box is, you may have seen it from another video, I have a little spinnerbait, and this is a Booyah spinnerbait. It's a very light-weighted spinnerbait, and it's a nice white color. And yeah, this thing just catches bass, and it doesn't just catch bass. There's many species that a spinnerbait can catch, including bluegill and many other species which I've not even caught myself. But definitely a great basic bait to have in a small little tackle box like this that you can just whip out and start casting around your spinnerbait. Now these next two lures are some of my favorites to catch other species besides bass on. And first one here is a popper. And I actually posted a video a couple months ago where I used this popper to catch a bunch of bluegill, and that was a lot of fun because even though their mouths aren't that big, they can still get these little tiny treble hooks in their mouths, and just popping that thing, those aggressive bluegill come up and eat them. So this is a great bait, not just for bass, but also for bluegill and other sunfish and other species as well. And the next one is one of my all-time favorite topwaters. I know a ton of you guys like it as well, if I can get it out of here. And that is the Whopper Plopper or other brand. I have a Berkeley Chopo, I think it's called. And you could even get a smaller size. It'd be better for targeting other species as well. A smaller size. This is, I think, the regular like 90 size. Or maybe it's the 120. I'll put the size on the screen. But maybe the smaller size would work a little bit better. But you can definitely still catch multiple types of species on a Whopper Plopper. A great tab for small ponds, for streams, for creeks, for rivers. Any type of body of water, a Whopper Plopper can catch you multiple types of species on. And then at the bottom here, we have one of the best, I think, multi-species lure categories of all time, and that is the Swimbait. It's super basic. It can be rigged different ways. Here I have some of these jig heads that I bought, the weighted jig heads, and then I have a little Rage swimmer on the back of that in a white color. And man, you can catch so many types of species with this. So this is a phenomenal bait for multi-species fishing, a great addition to this tackle box here. And then one of my favorite all-time lures for just catching a bass, and that is the Sinko. This is a 5-inch Ocho by Strike King, and I have this in the green pumpkin color with black flake. and this just catches bass. It is a great bait. You can rig it in a lot of different ways. Wacky rig it, Texas rig it, which I'll talk about in a minute. But not only can you catch bass, you can definitely catch some other species. I've actually caught catfish on a soft plastic like this before. So it's definitely a bass-oriented lure, but you can definitely catch other species on it as well, and a great addition to this multi-species tackle box. And then moving on to some of our smaller baits focused on other types of species, not just bass. And the first one is the classic Rooster Tail. And I did not even buy this. I found this stuck in a pond somewhere, and it was still attached to the line. I found it and I was like, hey, I'll keep that. And this thing can catch bass for sure. It can definitely catch like bluegill. I don't even know all the species it can catch, but just a great, it's this little blade spins around here. It's got one treble hook in the back. Just a great small like presentation for whatever fish you're targeting. So I think that's a great bait to have in your multi-species tackle box. And then another one, which I found in a pond as well. I didn't buy it myself. And I believe this one is actually for trout. It's just like kind of a little spoon and then got a little hook at the end. But I'm sure you could catch other species as well besides trout. But I think it's good to have, a lot of variety in here. So just a little kind of spoon with a hook at the end. So there's that. And then a lure that I've actually never used, but I've heard a lot of good things about, and that is the classic Beetle Spin. And here's the lure. It's like similar to a spinnerbait a little bit. It's got the little blade, it's got the little head and then the hook, and then it comes with these little soft plastics. Got a couple extra in here. This will hopefully be a great bait in this multi-species tackle box. Hopefully catch me some bluegill and maybe some crappie. I'm not sure exactly what all this catches, but definitely a great bait to have in this box. So we've covered all of our bass kind of oriented lures. We covered some other species lures, and now we're getting into our terminal tackle. And these are super important to have. I'm going to go over them one by one. First of all, we have kind of the hooks for the bass lures. And as I mentioned earlier, the wacky rig and the Texas rig with our Sinkos are going to use one of my favorite hooks of all time, a 3/0 extra wide gap hook. And this works great for a Texas rigging, one of those Sinkos. It's just a fabulous way to rig a Texas rig. I did not include any weights with this, but just that weightless version will work really well just at your roadside creek or pond or whatever. And then the other rig that I use with a Sinko is the wacky rig, and this is also a great way to rig it. And so for the wacky rig, I have some 1/0 octopus hooks. These are very simple hooks. You just thread it on through the middle of the soft plastic, and boom, you've got your wacky rig. And then moving on to the last piece, and that is kind of the bluegill rig. With a bobber. And this is something that I've caught so many bluegill and sunfish and green sunfish and just so many little species of panfish on. And it takes a couple different things to make this rig. First of all, you have your bobber. And this sits at the top of the water. If you've never used a bobber, it's pretty simple. It just floats and it lets you know when you get a bite because it starts going down like this, swimming away. You'll see it. So it's very helpful to have. This one's pretty simple type of bobber. You just pull down this little spring and you see a little opening there, and you can thread your line in there, release the spring, and you've got it in there. If you want to wrap it around a couple times, it'll help it stay where you want to on the line. Going down, you want something to weigh that down. If you don't have enough weight, your bobber will just sit like this. So we want a little bit of a weight to get the bobber to sit upright, just like this. And so for that, I bought some of these just basic weights. And these are the reusable ones, so they have the little clamp, and you can just bite them down or use your pliers if you want to be a regular human being. So you just clamp that down on in between your bobber, and then the last piece, what you need is a hook. And there's a lot of different types of hooks. I was looking at Walmart, and there's so many different types of hooks. I just found a very thin red hook. I don't know if it matters that it's red, but I have used red hooks before, and they work fine. But it's a very thin hook, which is perfect for bluegill and even crappie and all this. But the thing about this hook that is really helpful is it has a very long shank. So whenever you grab, say this fish swallows it and you need to get it out, if it has a very short shank, it's going to be hard to grab it and pull it out. But if it has a longer shank, it's easier to grab with your pliers or even just with your fingers to get that hook out of that fish's mouth. And you might be asking, what do we put on that hook? Now there's a couple options for what to put on your little bobber setup. I think one of the best options for doing that is night crawlers. You can buy these like live earthworms, and those will get you so many bites. But the thing about that is you have to use them once you've bought them. You can't just keep them indefinitely. They'll just die or, you know, stink up the car or whatever. So a great alternative to that I found are these Gulp Berkeley night crawlers. And they come in a little thing like this. Unfortunately, they do not fit in the tackle box, so that's why I just keep them in the bag. But it comes in a little hard container like this, and you can open it up, and this has all sorts of worms inside, and they're all pretty reasonably sized. I saw they do come in multiple different sizes at Walmart. You can buy the more thick type. These are a little bit thinner, but they look very similar to earthworms, and when you first get them, they stink really bad. They're just a great bait. I've caught so many bluegill on them, and they're a great addition to this whole setup here. So that is everything that I keep in my bag. And the nice thing about all these lures is that pretty much every single one can be thrown on a rod that you already have. So you don't need, you know, your big 7.3 heavy rod with a massive swim bait on the front. You can use pretty much whatever rod you have, like a little spinning rod. Right here is like a $10 rod I bought like maybe 10 years ago when I was a really little kid. And it works for pretty much all these lures. Or even you could buy one of those telescoping rods that collapses, would make it really easy for keeping in your car at all times or your truck or whatever. So these lures are very versatile. You can use them in all sorts of types of bodies of water with all sorts of species. I hope this has been helpful to you. And if you want to see my tackle box and my setup specifically for bass, I'll put that video right up here so you can check that out to see what my fishing tackle box looks like after 2 years of fishing. And I hope this has been helpful to y'all, and I will see y'all in the next one.